The Knicks go 1-3 this week. Let's talk about it.
Anthony for three.
I think we see Willis coming out. Won the NBA championship.
Have the first pick in the 1985 NBA college draft.
Season ends the hands of the Chicago Bulls. Reggie Miller is tied the game. The Bulls are your world champions.
New York Knicks select Kristaps Porzingis.
Where do we even begin, Knicks fans? Knicks go 1-3 this past week. We saw a lot of good things from Kristaps Porzingis, Carmelo Anthony, and Derrick Rose. Finally, we saw a couple things meshing, but there is a lot to work on before this team is considered the super team of the NBA. This is the MadGood Knicks Show. Let's kick it off. Welcome to the MadGood Knicks Show. I'm Far. That's TK. That's Jay. We're here to give you all the Knicks news all the damn time. Check us out on Instagram at MadGood Knicks Show. Guys, let's kick it off right away into the roundtable. The Knicks are 2-4. Welcome back, by the way, John. I gotta say, you had a nice week off. You should be well prepared for this question. Knicks are 2-4. If you had to point the finger, where is that finger going to point for their quote-unquote poor start? They've got the talent there.
Horny. Sorry, Horny. It's got to go to you. You're not defensive minded. We've been consistently terrible on defense. That's been a fact. Inconsistent everywhere else. Yeah, it has to go to Hornacek right now.
So the Knicks are 28th in rebounds per game, 27th in opponents' points per game, and Jeff Hornacek does not have a defensive guy on his staff. TK?
I agree. A lot of the blame has to go to Jeff, but Phil, man, you're killing me. There's too much emphasis being put on this triangle.
You're not alone, because we hear this in all the comments that we get on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter. We hear this all the time. Why is Phil Jackson the problem here?
It's the system. You got to dump the triangle, to be honest. You need to get in more pick and roll sets. We've been saying this since day one.
So I'm going to step in here. Have you read Phil Jackson's books? And if you haven't, I encourage you to check them out, especially 11 Rings. Phil Jackson is a very methodical guy. He cares very much so about every little integral part of the offense working and being on the same page to continue. On the other hand, let's look at the senior statesman here and look at Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo, this was supposed to be the year that you step in with your leadership. This was supposed to be the year that he comes off that third Olympic record-breaking gold medal and takes his team to that next level. Why in the world are we pointing the finger at anyone else besides the man who's on the court the most?
Melo's going to continue scoring individually. He does that. We know he's great at that.
The ISO ball
scoring
is a whole other issue.
Come on, you even have fans that they're yelling at you. Pass the ball. Trust the ball movement. When we did that against the Bulls.
Let's move on to the second question here at the roundtable. We saw a lot of good things. Mainly that game in Chicago looked fantastic. And that really, I'm glad it was a nationally televised game because it put the haters on hold for the time being. But guys, what does the formula for success look like for the New York Knicks? We want to dig into your brilliant minds here on the MadGood Knicks Show. TK, let me start it off with you. From the offensive end, from the defensive end, what does that formula of success look like?
The formula for success will look like pick and rolls and pushing the tempo. Get rid of that triangle offense, man. It's not working. It hasn't worked ever since the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's ditch that. On defense, they need to start moving their feet and stop switching.
They're very late on switches. Because I even saw Courtney Lee speaking with KP today on the court, telling him, dude, let's switch. KP arrived too late to guard Derek Favors.
Granted, yes. Okay, but I'm for sticking your defender.
So TK, your formula for success for the Knicks looks like pick and rolls on the offense and staying with your man on defense and pushing the tempo, as you just said. Jay, how about you?
I'll agree with TK with the pick and rolls. That's something that Noah and Rose do very well. But we have to go back to the Bulls game. That's one of the most successful games they've had this season yet. When we saw that game, we saw Courtney Lee overly aggressive, looking for the shot, and he's very efficient. Noah does what he does for a big man. He's a great passing big man. Now we need that ball movement across all players. We were all in double digits.
It's funny you say that because both of you guys are arguing that we need a pick and roll. With the pick and roll, not all players are going to be in motion at once, but you know what offense does have all players in motion at once? The triangle. And not a lot of people realize that. Yes, it's an outdated system, but there are aspects of the triangle that the Knicks need to incorporate in order to reach that maximum level of success.
In the Bulls game, you were talking about the assists. They had 35 assists and 5 turnovers. The reason for that, I clearly saw, there was a lack of triangle and there was a lot of weak side cutting. When Derrick Rose would attack the paint, you would have Porzingis, either the trailer or somebody running baseline, just easy dump off passes. He was not only able to find these cutters, there was separation being created from that.
I see your point on the offensive end. I think the defense also helped tremendously in that game, lead to more fast break points, and just keep the defense of the Bulls on their toes the whole way through. Now I want to talk about a major issue one of the reasons why I think we are dropping so many games. What the hell is good with this bench rotation? I'm talking to you, Hornacek. So in this case, you can blame the finger and point the finger right there. Jeff Hornacek, what is up with these bench rotations? I want to start off by saying #free Coos. Damn it. What is going on? The man can play, and you're not playing him. He's better than Lance Thomas at this very moment in time. Maybe Lance can get back to what he did last season. But as of right now, Mindaugas Kuzminskas is the go-to guy and the obvious option on that bench rotation. Guys, let's talk about the bench rotation overall for this team. I damn near lost my pen during this entire argument. John?
It's not the pen's fault.
Jay?
I really do think it has to do with more than just the rotation. You cannot win games with an average of your opposing team scoring 110 points per game.
You can't win games with Endor and Lance Thomas at your 5 either.
Free Kuz. Kuz actually came out against the Jazz. Kuz scored well. He did over dribble, especially in the second quarter. There was a very specific play where he over dribbled, and Holiday saved his ass right there in that play. And he actually dished it back out to him, and he had a corner 3. Kuz can stretch the floor. Kuz can play defense. He can pass. This man plays really well. We need to see more of him, but I don't think it's just a rotational thing. It's really defense. We need a defensive coach. We need to come together.
Yeah, I agree. I've been quite impressed with KO. I know I've been quite critical of Kyle O'Quinn as of late, but I don't know. Did he go to like the Dikembe Mutombo blocking skills academy or something?
Damn near 2 blocks a game.
Did you guys see that beautiful pass?
No, kudos to Kyle O'Quinn. He's been averaging damn near two blocks per game.
He's been pretty impressive defensively.
So bench rotations overall, TK, what are your thoughts on that? What needs to happen?
Lance Thomas needs to see a lot less playing time. He had 30 minutes for this game against the Jazz, our most recent game, and he played way too damn much. His plus minus was a -9, and him and Kuz actually had the same stats. They shot 2 for 5, 40% from the field, 5 points and 2 rebounds. Except Kuz played only 7 minutes. So what does that go to show you? Kuz, granted, was -6 from the plus minus, but he played 2 less, and Lance Thomas played way too much.
Plus minus is a very interesting statistic that we're going to get into. Actually, perfect timing on that. Let's take it to the wild card.
Pete, Steph, don't you got something for us?
What's going on, guys? My name is Steph.
My name is Jeff.
And I'm Pete. And on this wildcard segment, we'll be discussing the plus-minus statistic. Now, for our viewers who don't really know what that is, who aren't familiar with it, can you please elaborate?
I have no idea what it is. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so the plus-minus statistic is one of those misunderstood stats because it's pretty abstract. All it really is a number, positive or negative, assigned to a player that gives you an overall sense of how they're doing offensively.
Right. So let me get this straight. A player with a positive plus-minus rating means that while he's on the court during the game, he has a positive influence over the score, versus if he has a negative plus-minus rating, that means he has a negative influence on the score while he's on the court, right?
Yeah, that's right. On average, overall, relative to the opponent's offense.
Right. So it's relative to another team.
Exactly. So a good example to put into context is like the Philadelphia 76ers. Every one of their players has a negative plus or minus ranking, And that sort of makes sense because if you look at their record, they're 0-5, which means they haven't been able to amalgamate
can't
enough
catch a break,
offense overall to create that point differential to beat their teams. Whereas the Cleveland Cavaliers, their players are consistently in the positive ranking in terms of plus minus, and you can see that with their 6-0 record. They're just dominating on offense.
Defending champ, man.
Actually, what we wanted to do is contextualize this information a little bit more, so we created a new type of graphic that what it did is we took the Knicks players and we ranked them top to bottom in terms of their plus minus. And we did that for the Cavaliers, the Spurs, the Warriors, and the 76ers, some elite teams and some crap teams. And we found it's pretty interesting.
Extremes.
So you heard before, the Cavaliers, their graph was basically all above the axis. The Philadelphia 76ers all below. But the Knicks only had one player with a positive plus-minus ranking. Do you know who that is?
Joakim Noah, as the great Walt Clyde Frazier would say that. I mean, it's pretty interesting that Noah, since the 07-08 season, in the center position, has had the most games with 7+ assists out of anybody in the league. And on that list are guys like Marc Gasol, Pau Gasol, Al Horford, and DeMarcus Cousins. So I mean, that's pretty shocking, right?
that stat really blew my mind. It basically says that in the past 10 years, Joakim Noah has been the best passing center in the NBA. And that sort of speaks to the reason they were able to win the 2 games and sort of the reason they've lost the 4 games now.
Who's first on that list now? That's changed after today's game.
Well, before today's game, Joakim Noah was also the leading assist man on the Knicks, but Derrick Rose took his spot today.
Yeah, man. So that tells us something, man, about these Chicago acquisitions. If we got 2 Chicago players, ex-teammates, leading the Knicks in assists so far this season, I mean,
yeah,
it's not a bad acquisition, huh?
But that graphic also told us something else, and the fact that it was skewed, and the fact that Joakim was the only player with a positive ranking. That says when our ball movement is clicking, it gets us over the hump to win. But the fact that we lose so many games by a lot means that the thing that's dragging us down is defense.
Yeah, man.
Now, another interesting thing. Who's number 2 on that list in terms of plus-minus ranking?
Hashtag free Kuz, second on the list, man. It's pretty surprising that a player with such little playing time is second on the plus-minus list because the information you would expect it for a newbie and a rookie for it to be skewed, getting a little playing time, mess everything up, and go into the minus. But he's second, so that tells us, like our boy John and the rest of the crew said, Horny's not really thinking about that. I don't think he's looking at the stats. He should be playing this guy more, see where that plus-minus leads.
Yeah, we've only been saying it since the preseason, so it's good to see that the stats agree with our premonition.
Yeah, we got time.
Anyway, if you want to look at that graph in a little more detail, we'll be posting that on the MadGood Knicks Show on Instagram. You can check that out.
That's right.
Why don't we leave them out with this week's memes?
Let's do it. I'm Steph.
I'm Pete. That's been the Wild Card.